Hello, hello, hello.
Whoa.
Whose is this? Knives Out is a 2019 mystery comedy movie directed by Rian Johnson, and I am here talking about it many, many years later because I have beef with this movie. I got some qualms with it. To give a little of my background, my credentials, you might say, I'm a big fan of the mystery genre. I've read a ton of the Agatha Christie, all the Sherlock Holmes, the Father Brown, the Encyclopedia Brown, so you know I'm cultured.
Your underwear is pink. No, light blue with little pink flowers on it.
The mystery genre definitely has some wacky, silly tendencies, you might say, and Knives Out does not escape these either.
Yes.
Oh.
It's something I've had since I was a kid. It's a physical thing that just the thought of lying, it makes me puke.
Really?
But that's not really what I want to focus on. The big reason that I have qualms with this movie is that it's not actually a whodunit. What? And though my peers may disagree with me, I have a book, so I am correct. This is How to Write Killer Fiction by Carolyn Wheat, and the major takeaway I got from this book is the distinction between mystery whodunits and suspense thrillers, and that these subgenres have different and opposing goals, which she calls dreams. On the one hand, you have the classic whodunit. It's your basic puzzle, master detective who's above it all, and a conclusion that is logical and intellectually satisfying. Mystery is the focus while the characters are the backdrop. And that flips in the suspense thriller. This is a much more visceral action experience, got a lot more focus on a hero who must overcome obstacles and learn new skills, and the conclusion has to be believable, but also emotionally satisfying. As the book says, tension in the mystery depends on information withheld from the audience. We don't see the clues, or if we do, we don't know what they mean or how they all connect. Whereas in the suspense thriller, tension is created through information given to the reader. We are aware of the clear danger presented to our characters, and we shudder in anticipation as the danger draws closer or is a potential threat. When we look at Knives Out through this lens, we can see that instead of being a whodunit, it's much more of a suspense thriller. When we look at the core of the movie, it comes from the emotional connection we have with the character of Marta, and the audience being worried about her fears and focused on her pursuits. And honestly, I think the emphasis on this character is why so many people connected with the movie in the first place. But my point still stands. Or kind of. I mean, if you do some research into how Rian Johnson wrote Knives Out, he kind of says all this.
My idea approaching this was to kind of put the engine of a Hitchcock thriller in the middle of a whodunit. So hopefully we get all the great stuff we still love about whodunits. We get the questioning, we get kind of the old mansion and the eccentric family, all the suspects, and we get the great scene at the end where the detective does the denouement in the library and lays it all out. But in the middle of it, we kind of have this more suspense-driven Hitchcock thriller story that centers on Ana de Armas's character.
There it is from the man himself. And I respect what he's trying to do, but I still have qualms with the movie because I don't think it's emotionally satisfying. It doesn't feel cathartic in the way that a mystery thriller or a suspense thriller should be, because it's trying to do two different things. It says, like, here's a mystery, or maybe not, maybe you should be worried about her, or actually there is still a mystery and you should be worried about both things. I mean, at parts it feels like Rian Johnson is deceiving me. Like, the whole thing with the letter is very typical of a whodunit. You've got an item that seems to be one thing but ends up being another thing, but then it's not related to the mystery at all. It's just like a random character thing. So we have all these trappings of the whodunit, but the heart of a suspense thriller, and it ends up just being this big hodgepodge that sort of tries to sell itself as a clever mystery. Rian Johnson was trying to combine the genres, and my little book talks about this, calls it a crossover. Here's what she says. My advice is to stick to one side or the other of the equation. It can be done, but it's difficult. And the reason it's difficult is that you're trying to combine two different dreams. Crossovers are very hard, and I think Johnny Boy just got a little lost in the sauce, which is at the expense of some very cool stuff. Like, Rian Johnson wrote and presented these very interesting, eccentric characters, and I feel like we just didn't get to see too much of their interpersonal dynamics. Like, instead, we were spending all this time running all over town and hanging out in random basements. Like, what are we doing? I want to see more of that. And then on the other side, the story doesn't really serve as a good suspense thriller because we don't get enough time to know Marta or see her grow. Throughout the whole film, she's just kind of presented as this perfect Mary Sue type character. So what was the point of that? I mean, I'm sure she's like a nice person and everything, but the emotional conclusion to the film is pretty hollow because we haven't had enough time to like actually see her character develop. She'd become more confident, I guess, but that's like a pretty pitiful ending. So is Knives Out Whodunnit? Kind of, maybe, technically, but I think if you call it that, you're misrepresenting what it actually is, and that is a mystery thriller that tries to incorporate elements of the whodunit, but ultimately loses aspects of both. I do appreciate that Rian Johnson at least tried to do something new with the genre. The decision to make a more modern American version of whodunit is a really cool idea. Though his representation of politics is kind of cringe. Like, we get it, man. Republicans are dumb and leftists are performative. Plus, as a Southern boyo, his depiction of Southern people is kind of annoying. Like, what the hell? Get out of here. It's very tropey, but that's just what these movies are. Undercutting some tropes while simultaneously using others. Nevertheless, despite all my criticism, I'm glad this movie exists because it presents something different. And I can respect a failed experiment, but I look down upon a moderately successful, tired formula. Shout out to some of the other whodunits I like: Clue, Glass Onion, Nice Guys, and of course, the one and only Bullet Train.
You so fucking precious when you smile.
Alright, your turn to shout out your favorite mystery movie in the comments, and be sure to tell me if it's a whodunit or not. Follow me on Letterboxd for more bad movie takes, and stay silly. Goodbye. Goodbye.
He's got the murder weapon.
Bye!